Hey everybody, what's going on, and welcome to GNR Central. And today we're doing a true story about Traci Lords and Slash. Now this is a story that some people have asked me to do, and this is going to be probably one of the shorter stories since there isn't a ton of information about this. But let's first start about who is Traci Lords. Now she's got an interesting history that maybe a lot of people don't know. So back in the 1980s, in the early 80s, she was one of the most sought after porn actresses in the industry. But what a lot of people don't know is that law enforcement ended up getting involved in her career. So it was discovered that at the age of 15, she had taken part in, and when law enforcement discovered that pornographers were distributing and selling images and films taken of her when she was a minor, it led to prosecutions and court cases that changed the pornography industry in the United States, in addition to bans on all but one of her adult films. So when Traci Lords turned 18, she ended up leaving the Roald and Lee Strasberg Theater Institute, where she studied method acting with the intention of becoming a mainstream actress. Now, she's got a lot of different acting credits on mainstream TV shows, including MacGyver, Married with Children, Tales from the Crypt, Roseanne, Melrose Place, Profiler, First Wave, Gilmore Girls, and Will and Grace. She's also appeared in films such as Skinner, Virtuosity, Blade, Zack and Miri Make a Porno, and the most recently Excision. And in 1995, she ended up becoming a singer as well when she released her debut studio album, 1,000 Fires. So it was released through Radioactive Records, and the album remains her only full-length music released to date. Now, upon its release, 1,000 Fires received generally positive reviews from music critics. AllMusic gave it 3 out of 5 stars, calling it a competent exercise in techno, at the same time criticizing Lord's vocals as being thin and not having much range, but it also remarked that she does have a forceful and distinctive personality, which gives the record a cohesive sound. It was also rumored on one of the MyGNR forum posts that Slash played on the record as well. Some people think the song Love Never Dies was featuring Slash on guitar. Now let's turn to Slash's autobiography and see what he had to say about Traci Lords. So it came out in 2007, and he briefly mentioned Traci Lords. So in his book, he said, "I went through an interesting succession of girlfriends during a long and nightmarish obsession with heroin that lasted from 1989 through 1991. Just a handful that I'd see over at my place, each on different nights. At some point during those months, my manager had the brilliant idea of having me present some award to someone or other at the MTV Video Music Awards. I can't remember who we gave it to, but my co-presenter was Traci Lords, the porn star. So we met backstage, and then we started dating immediately. I was mildly famous, I was infamous, but I was still stuck in a raggedy, heathen mentality in terms of the quality of my life. At the same time, I could have had $15 million in the bank, but I wouldn't have changed my lifestyle at all. I didn't have a car. I was happy to have a one-room apartment that looked like a generic hotel room and needed nothing more. That was where my head was at. At the same time, I knew how to be a gentleman, which is entirely what Traci Lords expected on a date, so somehow we hit it off." So Slash went on to say, "Traci didn't want any part of being seen in public with me. If we ever went anywhere that anyone might be paying attention, she'd put me through the stupid ordeal where I'd have to come in after her and meet her inside, as if by accident. Obviously, I was recognizable, so she always insisted that we scoot in some back alley entrance. From what I understood, she wanted to keep a low profile because she didn't want to be exposed as a group like me dated. I was never one of those guys who was judgmental about that stuff and never understood those who were. In fact, the only reason I knew her was because I'd seen her in a movie where she was bent over holding her ankles and she looked amazing. I truly appreciated that, so I figured everyone else appreciated that too. I didn't get her whole charade at all." So here's the clip from the MTV Awards of Slash and Traci Lords coming out and accepting an award on behalf of Guns N' Roses.
Traci Lords.
And I'm Slash.
And Guns N' Roses is very happy to have this. Thank you.
And there was an interview that Axl gave to Howard Stern in 1989. And what I love about this interview is that Axl wasn't even supposed to be on the show. So back in the day when Howard was still an edgy shock jock and wasn't politically correct, he would get, a lot of his audience was like blue collar workers, people who were like doormen, people who worked at hotels, that kind of stuff. And they would give the show tips like, hey, so-and-so celebrity staying at this hotel. Here's the room he's staying at. You guys can call him. And that's what Howard did. He called up Axl, woke him up, and they had a little chat. It was the first time Axl was on the show. Axl would call in about a year later with Sebastian Bach. And during the interview, Robin Quivers, who's Howard's sidekick, asked Axl about whether Traci Lords was still hanging out with Slash. And it was around this time that Axl was talking about Slash writing some great stuff for the Illusions records. Here's what he had to say.
Very scary stuff.
Yeah, I know. This is going to be good, man.
He's writing very good. It's like I was very, very mad at Slash just because of other things going on in our lives until I went over to
And then you saw the
There's
music.
one of the 13 songs as well. It's okay.
Yeah. See, if he's going to be a dick, who cares? Because the guy has the ability to write some music.
Is that Traci Lords really hanging out with him?
Hey, yeah, does he get her?
Yeah, but she's like trying to change her image and got all mad that like, you know, he's got like he wears a Killer Pussy t-shirt. And has a bootleg Guns N' Roses record with her picture on it. And hustlers and pornos around. She came over and saw that and just went,
Yeah.
Traci's into sex, you know. Yeah, of course, he's American. He's red-blooded. He's breathing. Get out. Leave.
Hey, does she have a lot of slut friends that I could maybe party with?
I don't know what she's doing. I don't know what she's doing.
What a life these guys are living. First of all, they're all famous now. They're all single. They can have whoever they want.
Oh, they played it right.
You played it right.
So in October of 2007, around the time that Slash's book came out, he revealed that things didn't end up working out with Traci Lords. In fact, he said he missed out on betting the famous porn star girlfriend. So according to an interview that the Velvet Revolver star gave, he said he briefly dated Lords in 1989 at the height of his fame as the guitarist for Guns N' Roses, but turned her off with his epic drug use. So in his forthcoming autobiography, Slash revealed he thought his luck was in when girlfriend invited herself over to his apartment, but rather than cleaning up, he took crack cocaine with a pal and zoned out. He writes, by the time Traci showed up, pal West Arkeen and I were crawling around on the carpet looking for rocks. We were a mess. Traci Lords left, never to return. After Slash's pal waved a copy of the porn film New Wave Hookers, a movie in which Traci Lords starred in, he waved the movie in front of her, and Slash added he was so high that he thought nothing of going over to my bookshelves, retrieving New Wave Hookers, pointing to the cover and saying, "That's you, isn't it?" Slash admits the moment wrecked his chances of betting the actress. He said, "I'd seen her in this movie where she was bent over holding her ankles and she looked amazing. It was very entertaining, but somehow of a tease because Traci and I hadn't slept together." But things weren't all bad for Slash. Around the same time, he gave an interview where he said he was tired of dating porn stars. So Slash said he was tired of dating porn star because the sex is too exhibitionist. And at that time, the 42-year-old rocker had previously dated a number of porn stars and famously missed out betting X-rated actress Traci Lords because he was too high on crack. But he admits life in the bedroom can become repetitive. He says, "The sex with a porn star is great and I'm very uninhibited. The lows were getting too much of the same thing. It starts to feel like you're making a movie every time you have sex." Now, Savannah's story is a lot darker than any of the other people that Slash had been involved with, at least as far as the public knows. So in 1994, she had actually taken her own life. So she had crashed her white Corvette and injured her much glorified face in that accident after a night of hard partying. So she had asked one of her friends to take her Rottweiler dog out for a walk, and during the time she's out for the walk, she shot herself in the face. Now, she was 23 years old at the time, and it was the most outrageous act in a short but outrage-filled public life. And it was also the third major suicide in the adult video industry, whose most valuable and pampered commodity is beautiful but often troubled young women. So according to the LA Times article that ran her suicide, her growing celebrity and wealth enabled her to indulge her instinct for excess. Her fascination with rock stars endured, and according to Adult Video News, she said, "I love sex, and I love sex with rockers more than anything else," she said in an interview. Now, while some of that was probably propaganda for the consumption of naive fans who think or hope that porn actresses have insatiable sexual appetites, her exploits eventually filtered beyond the insular world of pornography, and People magazine columnist Mitchell Fink reported 2 years ago that she and one rock star engaged what Fink called full-head whoopee in a crowded New York bar, after which she jumped into a waiting limousine. So according to that reporter, that person was Slash. And it was then that whispers began. Here was a woman headed for destruction. And even she had the balls to diss Axl Rose as a lousy sex partner in a supermarket tabloid. And Brynn Bridenthal, who was a spokeswoman for Geffen at the time, said Rose may not even known Savannah, and they may have never even met. And what's funny is I was able to actually find that 1992 article that talked about Slash and Savannah. So it ran in a gossip column in April of 1992. So if you guys have read Slash's book, it seems like this was around the time he was separated from his first wife, who was his girlfriend at the time, Renee. So according to the article, Axl Rose isn't the only member of Guns N' Roses to exhibit outrageous behavior off stage. The owner of New York City's Scrap Bar, a rock and roll haunt in Greenwich Village, tells us on the night of April 3rd, Guns N' Roses lead guitarist Slash, whose real name is Saul Hudson, showed up at the bar with porn star Savannah on his arm if she had only stayed on his arm. According to the bar owner Stephen Trimboli, Savannah and Slash engaged in full-head whoopee, to use the Latin phrase, right there at the bar in full view of everyone. Trimboli says that afterwards Savannah got up and made her way to the waiting limousine outside. Slash followed her, says Trimboli, with a very silly look on his face. So there's been other rock stars that she's been linked to, most notably Vince Neil. And if you guys have seen the True Hollywood story of Savannah, there's a couple clips on YouTube of it. Vince Neil broke things off with her, and that really left her in a really bad place emotionally. And then before she passed away, she was apparently dating Pauly Shore at the time as well. So that does it for today's video, guys. Thanks for watching. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, and go check out GNRCentral.com for the latest Guns N' Roses news. Take care.